I'm so excited to hear our speaker today, Ravana. And so let's sing this one. I have the chorus up for you to sing. When it comes to the chorus, hopefully you know it. I believe this is one by Rev Sky St. John as well. I know where you live, but you've never been home. Everyone in your house has been living alone. But something is wrong, but you know it's not fair. Still, it's easier to hide than to show that you care. Will you come home? Will you come home? Will you come home to your heart? You've kept away from yourself from the start, but you can come home now. Come home to your heart. You work hard all day, how you strain to stand tall, trying to make someone love you, better yet, make them all. But the doors have been closed, all your secrets concealed, and you're living your life so they're never revealed. Will you come home? Will you come home? Will you come home to your heart? You've kept away from yourself from the start, but you can come home now. Come home to your heart. Leave the baggage behind. You've done more than your part. Before you fill all your loved ones, you must fill your own heart. Don't look to others for directions or deeds. You're the very first love that your heart ever needs. Will you come home? Will you come home? Will you come home to your heart? You've kept away from yourself from the start. You can come home now. Come home to your heart. Will you come home? Will you come home? Will you come home to your heart? You've kept away from yourself from the start, but you can come home now. Come home to your heart.
Thank you, Deidrey. I can't believe that she's in Canada and that we feel so close to her, don't we? That's what happens when we are really anchored beyond the mind and the physicality of life to be in the space of the heart. So I hope we start today by coming there. Remember years ago, a minister friend of mine told me, and I remember it will never be about the words. Just anchor in the heart, because if you do, people will receive at the heart. If you stay in your mind, people will receive at the mind. So I do hope that we can stay here together through this time. It's really an honor for me to be here this morning. And I start off with a question. Don't we all want to be well, be happy, live in abundance, hold that for every being on this earth? And I'm sure you're going to say, of course. As we just had an election, so many people feel that this is what the new government will provide, while others feel that, no, this is being taken away. And the question becomes, can anything but that God within provide or take away? Is there a way of living on this earth and living life that we can be reassured and assured that we can sustain levels of abundance and well-being, that it has nothing to do with what is going out there? Ask yourself that question. And as a Unity student, you might say, oh, yes, it's always about managing the mind. For we know that if you want to change your life, change your mind. And which is really the third principle. We just read it. Everything starts with a thought. We are co-creators. It's also biblical. Paul used to say, renew by the transformation of your mind. But today I'm here to challenge that and bring another perspective. Because mind management is really amazing and great in sustaining that sense of well-being and abundance, but it's not everything. And if it's not everything, the question becomes, what are we missing? I believe that Unity as a philosophy and a way of life has done wonders for us in terms of teaching us principles and how to manage the mind. And in my personal opinion, has done it brilliantly. And what Unity has done brilliantly is really helped us to see how we can align our thinking with spiritual truth. And for instance, if our conditioning has led us to an experience of unworthiness, Unity says, you are loved. God is good, and so are you. If our conditioning has led us to an experience of scarcity, Unity says, the nature of this universe is pure abundance. If our conditioning has led us to illness, Unity says, you're whole, you're perfect, you're innately in wholeness. And I would add, if our conditioning is bringing us to a place of devastation because of what is happening out there, Unity reminds us there's only one presence and one power in this universe and in our lives. Our minds, whether we accept it or not, are really conditioned. And most of our conditioning comes from our early age. They say that before 7, Aristotle used to say, give me a child until he's 7 and I would show you the man. And I would say that I have been extremely blessed that I was taken to a Unity church the first time when I was 13 years old. And I remember even that young, I fell in love with Unity. This is back in Puerto Rico, where I'm from originally. And I realized that being exposed to that at an early age really supported my conditioning to start seeing life not from what the consciousness of the race was saying, but from an inner space. And I would say that exposure really spared me from many, many troubles. And I would proudly say that through these principles, I managed to run a family business that was fairly prosperous. I was able to heal a very difficult type of cancer. I was able to manifest a very amicable divorce. I was able to help my son who had major developmental delays. So in so many ways, I felt in control. Gosh, I've learned this. I got this. It's almost this first stage of what Dr. Reverend Paul Hasselbeck talks about, stages of consciousness, saying that, we start off by thinking we're victims and that have no control over our lives and life is happening to me, to this place of feeling victorious because you go, okay, there's some spiritual laws running here and I can have them work for me. And in many ways, I'm grateful for that. But as I have continued to be on the spiritual path, I realized, God, it's not necessarily the mind only. There's so much more. In this own process of my own evolution, I have come to realize that Spirit wants more of us than our mere survival or thriving in the world. That Spirit loves to rock those ego-based illusion of control and order. I really believe that Spirit wants us to get clear that we don't leave this earth thinking that it's all about acquiring and succeeding according to world standards. And because it is so, there will be periods in our life where we start experiencing discomfort because at some level things are okay, are good, and still I don't feel good. There's an uneasiness, a restlessness. And in other words, there is much more that we are meant to experience, and the heart beyond the mind starts sending these messages, and until the mind and the heart can click, we really feel not good, sometimes even miserable. So what is it that I would like to sell to you today? And I have a slide for that. I used to be in sales in my former life. And many times as I was preparing to do my talking unit, I would say, what do I want to sell to these people today? And what is it that I would like to sell? That bridging the heart and the mind should be your goal in your spiritual life. The heart, meaning that divine mind, it's the doorway to pure information, to truth, to the experience of your higher self, your inner Christ. I like to think that the heart is the guru, it's the compass, it's the way shower. And it's really ironic to think and realize what many say, that it's the greatest distance there is. And it's merely 14 inches. And I have a slide to show. I have family in Spain, and my cousin a couple of years ago was telling me about this Italian author who talks about the giraffe. He says the giraffe has the heart so distant from the head that she fell in love yesterday and still doesn't know it. And don't we all at some point act like that? We experience life even further away than 14 inches. And the more we're caught up in the surviving and thriving, in this illusion that this is all what life is all about, the more disconnected we will be. And in my personal opinion, the more lost and empty and ultimately limited. And this is a quote from me. Let's take an inhalation. Stay in the heart. Being in harmony with the guidance of the heart is being in harmony with all of life, with our divine plan and the reason we incarnated and took a body. The heart speaks softly and quietly, has a greater intelligence, It's always right. It always shows the right path, and it will keep us in the flow of that abundance and well-being. I don't know if you're familiar, but there's a some tribe in South America called the Kojis. And it's very interesting that one of their traditions is that when children are born, the first couple of years, they get them into many times spaces of darkness, so that they don't become too conditioned in the world. They start connecting more internally with their inner heart. Um, yeah, so they can have that heart be their main first reference. It might sound a little cruel, but it's the way they get their people embarking life from an inner space. I wish, we could have some of that ourselves. So when we are able to live from there and spend time there and listen there and be able to recognize more and more when it's my conditioned mind or where it's my heart or my divine mind speaking, we're really in a place of great power. And what I've come to realize is that that information is revealed to us before the mind. And HeartMath, the HeartMath Institute, has proven that. They have done research in which they connect people with through some cables, and they expose the people to start watching images through a monitor. Some images are really happy images, and some are really scary. And they wait, I think, 10, 15 seconds between image and image. And what they've learned is that prior to the brain looking at the image, the heart has a reaction of happiness, of fear, before the image comes through. This is scientific. And I have realized many times, I don't know if it's happened to you, where I've had periods in my life or moments in which, all of a sudden I'm so happy. I'm so joyful. And I don't know where it's coming from, but I'm like, ooh, I like this. And then shortly after, like it happened to me, like 3 days later, I learned something that was really important and that allowed me to make a change that I know I needed to do. And I wasn't sure when or how. And the heart already knew, okay, you're going to get this information so that you can get to do what is yours to do. So not only does Unity teach this, HeartMath has validated this, but even in the Old Testament, there's the Proverbs scripture that says, trust the Lord with all of your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight. In other words, more heart, more intuition, more abundance, because you can't go wrong when you're coming from that space, right? So then the mind becomes that instrument by which you say, okay, I need to be in more silence, I need to be more quiet. It's like the instrument that creates the conditions for you to spend more time inwardly. In other words, once again, our mind understanding is great, but it's limited. It's still a human level, it's still a conditioned mind. But through the heart, you have access to all. It's like you rather stay in the hard disk of your laptop, or you should go to the World Wide Web and have access to all there is. When we think, oh, it's all about my laptop and whatever programs I get here, which might be great, but it's not everything is available. And what we're saying is like tap into that and trust it and make it your aim. How much more can I follow that? And that's what my initial sale is. Can you make that your aim in your spiritual life? So one of the techniques that I use as a speaker at Unity is that I love stories, because people love stories, and it's like, oh, I got what you were saying. So I got one. Are you ready for one? This has to do with, I have to just present the scenario and then share the story. It's back in the 90s. I am working at the family business, and always my passion was to one day be a spiritual leader, one day be a teacher. And for reasons, for holy reasons, I was not able to. So at some point I told myself, okay, what if you do something in the education field that at least fills that void? And what I did was, there was a program at the time to adopt a public school. So I went as a company and I adopted a public school nearby in a really impoverished area. And this school had 560 students. And I started collaborating with the school. They had major challenges. Another thing you need to know is that the type of business that I was running was a distribution business. We were buying products from the US or China and selling in the island and some parts of the Caribbean. And for many years, during this fourth quarter, we would do some liquidation of products, wholesale, okay? So for years, I would just identify items that we would just liquidate. And I had, for 2 or 3 years in a row, had a great customer who was from the government. They were from the Senate and House of Representatives. They would buy stuff that they would give to children in need. And it became almost like a tradition. After 3 years, okay, I know they're gonna come and get stuff. So this particular year, I had already pre-chosen some of the goods, and the lady who was in charge of doing that said, yeah, that's a good, and that was like $8,000 worth of product in liquidation, in really, really low prices. It would probably be a retail value of, I don't know, $30,000, $40,000. So meaning that we were already losing big time. And when she was about to come and pick up her goods the day before, she called me up and she says, I am so sorry that this year we don't have as much budget. I just learned about it, so we're just gonna get $2,500 worth of product. And I was like, what? We already packed this? Who am I gonna sell it to? I said, okay, well, when are you coming? She says, I'll be there tomorrow. Then my mind started going, what if you give it away? My heart was saying that. The mind was like, what? I'm already losing big time. How much more am I gonna lose? And the heart went, go ahead and give it away. No way. And I was like back and forth like ping pong. Well, finally the lady made it there, and I go to the warehouse and I walk out there and I see the packages, and something said, it was like the heart do it. And I went, hey, Patty, remember her name was Patty. You know what? Take it all. We'll just take whatever you can give us. The lady freaked out. You're kidding me. I can't believe you're doing that. Thank you so much. And at that very moment, I was heart-centered, but then my business mind kicked in and said, she can do something for you in exchange. And what came across was, oh, have her help us with the public school we had adopted that for a while didn't have a principal. Then we managed to get the principal. Now we didn't have the secretary, and the principal was going crazy, and we couldn't get the Department of Education to assign a secretary to the school. So I said, hey, one thing I would love for you, I need the president of the Senate to help us with, is to get a secretary for this public school that we adopted. And she says, oh, beginning of the year, I'm going to make sure you get an appointment with President, I remember his name, Charlie Rodriguez. I say, oh, great. Okay, so we hugged, said goodbye. New Year started, and believe me, you might not, but I had auditors from the local IRS, and they came to do an audit. And after a couple of weeks, they realized that we were not doing a computation correctly with the export sales, and that we owed $100,000, and that they were going to go back. It was going to be retroactive. So I called my external auditor and I said, what's going on here? They are finding us for 100K, and we were doing this according to how we were told. So I need your help here. And I could not believe the auditor told me, I'm sorry, Anna, there's nothing I can do. You might have to go ahead and pay it. I was, what? And then go back retroactive was something we didn't mess up with. And during that week, I get the phone call from the lady saying, hey, President Charlie's ready to see you. And I went, oh, okay. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm sorry. I'm going to ask to see if I can get somebody in the Department of Treasury there to review our case. So I went to the meeting, and of course, we talked about the school first. We managed to get the secretary for the public school. And then he says, let me call the subsecretary of the IRS there, call it Hacienda. And they say, okay, we're willing to review the case. They review the case. They said, yes, you were right, but there was something you need to correct. They fined us for $15,000 and closed the case. You tell me, who saved me? Spirit through the heart. The auditor, I told my dad, I said, I can't do business with that guy. When we most needed, he didn't follow through. But when you are in that deep connection and you allow the guidance, even if at the mind something might not click, trust it, because it's always the right one, the right direction. The five senses can take you up to a point. Ego, like Ramdas would say, is rarely content, because the ego wants to maintain things the way the ego thinks is right and it's the best outcome, whereas spirit has all the information. So what I'm essentially telling you today is to be aware that there's much more, and that we need to really practice. And if there's something outside that is really bothering you, just see it. It's an invitation to go deeper. And I think that's the blessing of anything that happens in the world, that we go, this went wrong, this is not right. And you go into fear, say, okay, it's really an invitation. What is this trying to tell me? Where am I really placing my trust? Because in the world, like Jesus would say, there's tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. And the nature of the world is a changing nature. It's always going to change. We can't expect it to stay the way we think it's the best forever. So the only salvation is really to go to the realm of the unchanging, that is God. Takeaways today. Inhale, everybody. Exhale. Thoughts do create. Unity teaches to place thoughts on truth to create good and abundance. That is wonderful, but don't be like the giraffe. You might have a great positive mind, but cannot be too detached from divine mind through the heart. Bridge that neck. Listen internally more and more and more. In that realm, you will be led. You will be protected. You will be taken care of. And we need more and more people to be in that space to hold the collective consciousness. And I believe that people in unity, we are like that critical mass. We have been given tools to use in times where we might feel threatened. It's really a call for God. Let's inhale and exhale and then bring Deidrey into this space with her song. And then we're going to culminate with a meditation. And so it is.
Dear heart, it seems I have forsaken you. I haven't given time to you. I rarely stop to listen anymore. Dear heart, I want to change this point of view and move beyond the noise and untruth to rest my mind at your door. Dear heart, I want to fall in love with you again, turn all the lies I told myself into truth again, turn this life into the magic I deserve again. Dear heart, I will never silence your voice again. Dear heart, I will never silence your voice again.
Dear heart, dear God, I will never silence your voice again. Can you take that pledge? Can you and I make it our aim that we will honor it, that we will create space for it, that in our everyday there's some space for silence and quiet. Imagine from the center of your heart the biggest star of light shining through. almost as if the light would be saying, I need to shine through you. Let me. Don't block it. Let me be. And each time we let one thought of error, of darkness, of illusion, we give that power, the light. It's limited. So it's really about a choice. And the invitation today is to choose it, to really find the spaces in which what already is in you, as you, can express and bring you to a place of power, a place where fear has no presence. And when you and I are empowered in spirit, then spirit can use us. And then in the midst of what the world is putting out there, we become the instruments, the vessels, the expressions of God. Do you want to be that? Do you want to be that? Do you want to be a counterforce? Do you want to be the love and the hope, the presence, the power? And if your heart says, yes, I do, honor it. Set it as your goal. Vow to that. And then this is how we sustain a good world that God intended it to be for its creation. Take a moment of silence and just be in the heart. We feel the domino effect of coming from this space here, an online space. We are moving that first domino towards one direction, touching hearts all over. Smile with me and be grateful with me for this opportunity to know truth and be truth and commit to truth. For that and more, we say thank you, God. And so it is. Amen.
Dear heart, it seems I have forsaken you. I haven't given time to you. I rarely stop to listen anymore. Dear heart, I want to change this point of view. Move beyond the noise and the untrue, to rest my mind at your door. Dear heart, I want to fall in love with you again and turn our lies I've told myself into truth again. Turn this life into magic I deserve again. Dear heart, I will never silence your voice again. Dear heart, I want a deeper love with you, a sweeter life more connected to my compass when I'm craving more. Dear heart, shape me into something new, beat your drum through and through. I honor you, 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 dancing at your door. Dear heart, I wanna fall in love with you again. Turn all the lies I've told myself into truth again. Turn this life into magic I deserve again. Dear heart, I will never silence your voice again. Dear heart, I wanna fall in love with you again. Turn all the lies I've told myself into truth again. Turn this life into magic I deserve again. Dear heart, I will never silence your voice again. Dear heart, I will never silence your voice again.
And so it is. Thank you so much.